So a few weeks ago I compared two wireless lavalier microphone systems. You should check that out if you haven't already. This time I'm going to be comparing apples and oranges. My preference from that test, which was the Fifine K037 wireless lav mic, with something that's totally different, which is the Tascam DR-10L, a recorder that actually clips to your body. Obviously this still has its strong points. If you're doing live presentations, this is what you're going to want, because you need to have that wireless connectivity to a receiver that can be plugged into an amplifier that people can hear in real time. This, you can't do that with. This is great for video productions and things like that, where you're going to be editing in post, not necessarily where you're going to be doing anything in real time with it. First, I want to go over some of the features of the Tascam. Okay, so now you should notice the difference in the audio, because I am actually talking from the Tascam right now. The Tascam has a simple on-off slider on the side, so slide it down to the on-off and hold for 1 second. The menu's pretty simple, but it actually has some pretty useful features. Probably the best thing about this recorder is all the functions it has to keep it from peaking and distorting. The first of which is mic gain. It comes set on medium as default from the factory, and you can set it all the way from low up to high plus if you want. Next is the low cut filter. It comes set default as on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off just to see what happens. You've got the limiter, which keeps it from peaking. You've got auto level, which will actually turn the volume up and down depending on how loud or quiet things are. And then if that's not enough, you have dual recording, which will actually record 2 separate tracks if you choose to have this on, one at a lower decibel level than the other, so that if the higher level track does peak and distort, you can just use the audio from the second track. We're going to skip on past all the normal boring stuff. That's all pretty self-explanatory. Mic bias. If you have a mic that has an external power source, you can turn mic bias off. When it's on, it means that the mic is powered by the Tascam itself. Next, you would select the battery type that's installed. It gives you 3 different options on that, just so that the battery gauge reads properly. Another cool feature is that as long as the Tascam is recording, all of these buttons are locked, so you're not in any danger of accidentally pushing them. The slider is also not real easy to move, so it's nice because you're not going to accidentally stop recording or shut the machine off or anything like that. It's also got an 1/8 inch input jack that's secured by a screw lock. It takes just a simple AAA battery that will supposedly last more than 10 hours long if you use an Energizer Ultimate Lithium. The microphone is very compact. In fact, it really resembles a Sennheiser microphone. I don't know whether or not it's private labeled by Sennheiser, but that would be pretty impressive if it was. And if that's not compact enough for you, you can easily pull the windscreen off and just snap it right back on. And it comes with a nice little carrying case and a USB cord. Now for the comparison, and for that I'm talking through the Fifine. The first thing I noticed is that the cord for the microphone on the Tascam is significantly longer. In fact, it's more than 1 foot longer than the one on the Fifine, which may not seem like a big deal, but it gets pretty annoying when the cord is constantly tugging on your shirt. If length is one thing, size is another. And the Tascam is significantly smaller than the Fifine. In fact, it's less than half the size, which is pretty nice when you're trying to shoot a production. So now that you've heard the difference, I've switched back to the Tascam. Now, not only is the wireless transmitter itself physically larger, but you've also got to have the receiver. And then since most of my videos are done with a second host, I have to have this interface right here so that our audio will mix together. And then I have to have the computer, which this plugs into with a USB port. All of that just to get the audio done. So not only do I have to carry my backpack full of all my video equipment, but I also have to have a separate duffel bag for the laptop and all my other audio equipment if I'm using the wireless system. Now, in order for both of us to do our videos together, I did have to buy 2 of these. And again, these are apples and oranges. This here was $30. This here is a refurbished unit. It was almost $200. I think I paid $166 for this. But it works great, even as a refurbished unit. Now, let's compare the 5 points that I compared from my previous video between the Pile versus the Fifine. Features we already kind of went over between the two. Clarity, you just heard it. Noise, there is no comparison between a recorder that is attached to your body and any wireless transmitter. There is always the potential for noise to be caught over the airwaves with this from broadcasts or electronics in your house or all that kind of stuff. You just never know if you're really getting a clean signal from this unless you're sitting there monitoring it the whole time. And then the last point was range, which is actually the reason I got this to begin with. This is attached to you. It's recording all the time. I can go a mile away. I can go 10 miles away. I can go 20 miles away. And no matter what, this is always going to be recording whatever I'm saying. This here, it lost reception at the end of the street. So there you go. It's apples and oranges, but those are two different options and a couple different price points for what you can get, and the different benefits of going with a recorder versus a transmitter. Quality, this just feels more solid than this does. Not really any thing I can, yeah, whatever. And then range, which honestly is the reason. Am I f***ing not recording? I gotta redo that thing. Okay, we're gonna redo that whole thing because I was not recording at all.